right, so this is Lisa Morel. I have known Lisa for 15, 16 years.
16
okay.
years, yeah.
Lisa is one of my favorite people because not only does she work very, very well with my clients, but she's done personally my mortgage for my house, my sons, and two other gentlemen who are working here in the office have done mortgage for, and a multiple of my clients. So she is a professional mortgage person. Okay. So we're going to go through these and ask the expert. There's very few people that I can recommend without any hesitation at all. Lisa is one of the best people I know in doing what she does, and actually one of the kindest people I've ever met. Okay?
Thank you.
So just something that I don't know, how do you actually get into the mortgage industry?
So it's been 40 years, so you have to think back to...
You were 10?
Nope, but I had been working, I got out of college and I went to work for an electronics company. I wanted to be in international import and export.
Okay.
So I was doing import and export licensing within a marketing department to be told that women could not be in sales.
Okay.
So I ended up meeting a friend who worked for a family mortgage company, and she got me started in the mortgage business. And I will be forever grateful, because for me that it was the sales part that I loved. But to be told back then, as a woman in business, that I was not qualified to be in sales.
It's to a certain extent how far we've come.
Yes.
Right? It was only the mid-'70s where you couldn't get a credit card without a
husband co-signer
permission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was a long time ago now.
It was a long time ago now, and I'm happy to see we've evolved.
Right, because I mean, I was talking to somebody, and I remember one of my first dates that I ever went on. I was in high school at the time. Was I went to see Star Wars, the original movie, in Flushing, Queens, and we were just talking about it, and I was like, yeah, that had to be like 20 years ago, and I was like, no, Bob, that was 1977.
That's right.
That
was way back when.
That's a long time ago, right? But that's okay. So, as a mortgage professional, what does your typical day look like?
I spend a lot of time on the phone with clients, and actually that's probably my favorite thing to do. And my biggest strength is that I try to listen to their stories. What are they looking to accomplish? What do they want to do? What are their pain points? And because I have such a broad experience in all kinds of mortgage programs, I can often bring solutions to the table that they might not have thought of, or someone might not have told them before.
So actually, that kind of answers my next question is, how do you help clients navigate that actual mortgage process? So that's how you pretty much do that.
It really has to do with what are the goals that they're, just much like what you do.
Sure.
What are the goals that you're trying to accomplish, and they're very different from person to person. You just don't know where a person's pain point is. Is it in the monthly payment? Is it in how much they have for down payment,
right,
or trying to stay in a home on a reduced income?
Right. We do reverse mortgages.
Yeah, reverse mortgages,
like
right.
In the mortgage market, I have a lot of clients coming in right now and who are trying to buy homes or looking to buy homes. What actual trends are you currently seeing in the mortgage market to help people out with now higher rates, which are historically not that high, right? But higher in people's recent experiences?
So it's interesting. You're seeing a lot of people hesitate in putting their homes on the market because they're tied to a lower interest rate. So that is a trend that we have to talk about. What is going to make them move? What do they need to make them move? Should they keep their house? Should they not keep their house? There's a lot of different things, but I think the biggest trend that I see right now is people do not want to sell their homes. They do not want to let go of their home until they are contracted on their new home.
Right.
And so we are spending a lot of time developing strategies that help them qualify for a new home while they have their old home, because they just don't want to be homeless.
Right.
Be in that
and
gap.
have to go get an apartment for 3 months, and just a nightmare that it brings. And also, I mean, I found with a lot of my clients, I have clients. It's kind of funny, that there's age groups that go. So people are usually looking for houses, I find, between 26 and 36 as a first-time home buyer, right? The people who are 26 to 36 back in 2007, 2008, 2009, a lot of them didn't buy homes.
Yeah.
They're looking now.
They're looking now.
Okay. But now we have the new people at 26 to 36 looking now. But the people who are that previous bracket who bought those starter homes, they bought the house, back in 2008, 2009 for, $250,000, $275,000. Now the house is worth $550. That's great. Maybe they have $250,000 in equity, but they still owe, $200,000 on the house. Yeah. Okay, and so they have maybe $300,000 all in equity, which is great in the house. But now they want to buy the $950,000 house. So now they can put down $300,000, we'll say, right? That's great. But now they're going to have a $600,000 mortgage, which is more than double.
Right.
Not at 3% because they came to you and refinanced at 3%. Now it's 6.5% to 7%, and their mortgage goes from $2,100 a month to $4,400 a month.
So do you know my trick for that? And I've used it with your clients. I don't know that they've told you or not, but when someone comes to me and they're in that position, I give them the payment on what the new house will be. And I say to them, congratulations, you got a mortgage today. Your new mortgage payment is $6,000 a month. So when you pay your current mortgage payment, I want you to take the difference between that and $6,000, just put it in your savings and pretend you don't have it. And they're like, well, why would I do that? And I'm like, because then you know whether or not you want to commit to this before you sign on the dotted line, before you fall in love with the house.
And if you do it for 6 months, right?
You have extra money.
You have extra money to put down or fix that, because
exactly.
I always tell people, you really don't want to put all your money down on the house, right?
Thank you.
Because
thank you. There's things that have to be fixed.
The wife was going to want drapes,
or a new kitchen,
or drapes are important, right? You don't want to be standing there in the bedroom with no drapes, right? So and the things that are going to cost you a little bit of money, so you don't want to put 100% down.
And you know what else I'm seeing a lot now, and people aren't understanding, which is why I like how we work together, because we're an all-inclusive. And what I mean by that is someone can call me and they're like, hey, I bought this house for $200,000. Now it's $900,000. My husband passed last year, and I want to sell this house and move on to something that's going to allow me to travel and do this. Great. We can do that. Let's work on utilizing a certain amount for a down payment on the house and maybe put a little bit extra in to supplement your retirement savings, right? But then the other piece is they never talk about capital gains.
Right.
And I'm like, have you discussed with your tax planner what your capital gain responsibility might be? And they're like, well, I don't have any capital gains. This is my primary residence. And I'm like, it doesn't exactly work that way, right?
And the other side is with it's kind of funny because I have this conversation all the time with two groups of clients.
Me too.
Right? So
this is a common one now.
The first is you ask people, do you know what a step up is?
Yeah.
Right? And they go, no, I don't know what a step. So your husband passed away.
Yes.
The house was worth $900,000. His half of the house is worth. His cost basis was, because half of the cost base, $250. Using your example, was $125. But he gets a step up to $450. Right. So now you also get $250. Right, so that brings us up to $700. Right, so if you're selling it for $9,000, yes, you're going to have to pay capital gains, but only $200,000.
But they don't. And again, this is not my lane.
Which is $30,000.
Right, exactly. But this is not my lane.
But,
but in my responsibility to my client is to say, I don't want you to dump all the money in the house because you may have a tax liability.
Sure.
I'm not the one to tell you what that tax liability is or may be. You need to talk to your tax professional. Sure. So my job is just to know enough to get them to ask the questions.
The other one I always love is because it's kind of just fun to do. I have a client come in and it's like, mom and dad passed away now, and I inherited the house. The house is worth $900,000. I know I'm going to owe a ton of taxes on the house. You know what I mean? But I just want to kind of figure out how much I have to keep. And I said, well, you're going to pay me about an extra $60 because I got to fill out some forms. But honestly, you're not going to have
you're
any
be
taxes.
Good. Yeah.
Right? There's no tax on this, right? Because you get a step up on the cost base.
Yeah.
Now, if you hold it for 2 years and worth a little bit more, you might have to pay a little tax. If it goes down, you have a loss. But
it's important, and I feel like so many people in my industry don't. don't take advantage of the fact that I don't need to know tax law. I need to know someone who knows tax law.
As
And I
always,
need to know that it should be something I advise my client that they should
Sure.
find out about.
as I tell all my clients, one of the roles I'm going to play for you is I'm the guy who knows somebody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah.
it's a doctor, or you need a good cancer specialist, or you need a plumber, or you need a mortgage specialist.
A mortgage
You know what I mean? And that's
specialist,
why
exactly.
I always come to you. What are some of the biggest challenges right now that you face when trying to secure a mortgage, and how do you kind of overcome them?
Funny enough, I've had several. So right now, if you're not a U.S. citizen, there is financing available for you. You have to know someone who knows about it.
Okay.
So I'm
Is this like
working
a green
on
card person, or
not
this
even
is like
no
not
a,
just somebody
a
who wants to
green
move here?
someone who has a green card has legal residency
And they're
in the
good.
U.S. and they are good. But someone who is here on various visas, or we have folks that are not here. Like I'm doing one right now who's a gentleman who is what's called a foreign national. He owns property in the United States, but he doesn't live here.
Right.
Okay. And so understanding how to do that type of financing, because people own property here. Understanding how to work with self-employed individuals, because their tax returns sometimes do not represent
How much
what
money they make?
exactly what they make, because
they-
they have great tax preparers.
And they took depreciation.
Yes,
and
or they bought
Cash flow.
there was a reason for them to buy a load of inventory or materials in a
absolutely.
year.
Just because there's something called tariffs.
Yeah, something along those lines. But so understanding those programs, I have such a wide variety of clients in it currently, and I think I have probably 6 or 8 different types of loans that will help them get the financing they need reasonably. So I think that's the thing is keeping up with the amount of programs, keeping up with the ability to do
Right.
this stuff.
Because there's a lot out there. It's not just your standard 30-year fixed mortgage.
It is not. It is really not. So.
It can be difficult. So, what would you advise right now a first-time home buyer to focus on when applying for a mortgage?
Focus on understanding that rate is temporary. You buy the home you love, fall in love with the house.
Rent the mortgage.
Yeah, the mortgage rate is going to change. Whether it's today, tomorrow, in a year, in 2 years, there is going to come a time when you will have the ability to lower that monthly payment
Sure.
or change that monthly payment to
Hopefully.
further your ability to grow wealth.
Yeah.
So
With rates, because I always have clients like, I'm waiting until interest rates drop, and I'm like,
there's
you
a
can
cost
do
to that.
But honestly, I'll do the math with them. Now, houses go up on average 3% per year, and if rates drop from like 6 3/4 right now to 5 3/4, your mortgage rate will go up by X. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you buy the
Yes.
house late, because the house you're going to want is going to be just that much more expensive.
For me, so HUD uses 4%, always has.
Right.
60 years, they're using 4% appreciation. So I put it in numbers. And like
It's
the
just
house
simple.
that you're buying today, that you want to buy today, is going to cost you $50,000 more next year, just based on averages.
Right.
And the mortgage today costs you an extra $100 a month.
Right.
Which would you prefer? And usually I get, well, when you put it that way,
And also, historically, human beings are very, very bad at measuring absolute value, right?
Yeah.
We really just can't do it as a species. And what we tend to think of that happened in the recent past has always happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you talk about, pensions, for example, right? Well, pensions really came out after World War II. No one had
And
pensions
they're
in
gone.
the 30s, and now they're gone again.
They're gone again.
And so, this is an evolvement. Things change. The average mortgage rate, 82% of the time for the past, since they really keep
30
it,
plus years is
it's between
7.
6 1/4 and 7 1/4.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
range. Okay,
Yeah.
it's been in that range 80% of the time.
100%.
Now, when I got my first mortgage, Ronald Reagan was president.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was 14.5%. That was just as silly as the one you got for Matthew at 3.
When I started in the industry, an adjustable rate was 13.5%. 13.5%. So it's kind of hard. can we talk blended rates?
Sure.
Because this is what gets me today is like, if you have a $200,000 mortgage and your rate on that is 4%, but you're carrying $100,000 in credit card debt where the rate on that is 30%. What most people don't understand is that A, if you make that minimum payment on that credit card, you're never going to pay it off.
Right. Like
But
22.
B, your blended rate is so much worse than what your mortgage rate is.
Right.
And so I've helped clients do that a lot
And going
lately.
and going back to the tax side, okay.
Yeah.
Now, especially since the big beautiful bill, right? You now can deduct $40,000 of income tax and property tax.
I just
right?
learned that number yesterday. I was so excited.
So now a lot of people who couldn't itemize are going to be able to itemize. So now that extra interest you're paying is now tax deductible.
Right.
Which is very, very helpful.
Which is great. And you know what? People need they need payment relief right now. You know, they need payment relief, and a lot of times this is a way to get it.
Right now, like how you actually would decide, because you mentioned this, between a fixed rate and a variable rate mortgage.
So
which should people look at more? I know it's one sock doesn't fit all type thing, but
no. So that's a great question, and what's really funny is that the curve has flipped the other way. So there are very few variable rates that actually are better than fixed rates.
Okay.
Now there's a risk reason behind it, and there's also a reward reason behind it. The risk reason is obviously what happens over time. So variable rates technically are a little bit more expensive than fixed rates right now, because the other piece is they're short term. And so they're not going to be on the books very long.
Right.
And especially when you're hearing that interest rates are going down, the people who are providing those adjustable rates are going to be like, yeah, I got to make my money on this loan up front.
Right.
Because as soon as fixed rates go down.
We know this year that, Fed's rolling rates about 50 basis points.
Exactly.
Thing is, though, with rates, and I used to really be a bond guy, right? If rates go down, the dollar continues to drop, which is unusual when this actually happens,
It is,
right?
yeah.
You could have the short term of the curve go down and the long term go up.
Yes.
And since the bonds are priced off 10 years, it's a very funky time. We haven't seen this in a long time.
It is a very funky time. And so right now, like I said, that curve is, there. I haven't seen one case where an adjustable rate has been better than a fixed.
Yeah.
And just in my clients, do you know what I mean? But I have the ability to do adjustable interest rates, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
In doing your mortgages, on a personal note, I mean, I like doing what I do because, I'm a very well-kept man, all right? I have a lot of people here who help me very much. So all I do really is talk to people, which is a nice way.
That is great.
It sits down and talk to people. What do you find most rewarding about being a mortgage professional?
Oh man, that's a good. It depends on the day. So like I love when I get to solve a client's problem. That just is my ultimate high. And that problem could be helping them close on a loan, or just helping them fix a servicing issue that they've had, or why did why did my monthly payment go up? I have a fixed rate. Yeah. Let me talk to you about your insurance and your taxes. Let's take a look at it. So to me, I'm a nerd. I love to dig and find a financial solution to a problem. Okay. But my ultimate high is just solving a client's problem.
What advice would you give to someone who's considering a career in being a mortgage professional?
Come find me.
Okay.
Okay, come find me. I will teach you how to be successful I've been through, oh my gosh, how many presidents? I think 7 presidents and 5 to 6 Fed chairmen.
Okay.
Regardless of what's happening in the interest rate market, regardless of what's happening in our economy, I've seen it all, and I will teach you the basics that you need to know to build a foundation to be successful in any market.
So with technology, we live in, as the Chinese curse is, interesting times.
We do live in interesting times.
Where do you see the mortgage industry in 5 to 10 years?
Mortgage industry and
itself
technology.
in 5, 10 years.
I can tell you, since I've gotten into the industry, and I'm coming up on my 40th year, I have been told each and every year that technology will replace the loan officer. And technology is only as good as the information you put in. And so I see that a smart loan officer like myself, we're going to know how to use technology, and we'll never be replaced. The only person that can replace a loan officer is a loan officer who learns how to use technology.
I just was in, we were talking beforehand, was in Nashville, and they had an AI guy, and he believes that no one's really going to lose their job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI better than you.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that
but the efficiencies that we've built into the mortgage industry already are things like, you submit paperwork that we can read it. The technology will read the paperwork and evaluate some of it. We are getting validation of a person's income electronically through a third party, and that again can be read by the engines that approve loans. But again, we're counting on a company to report the income correctly to the agency, and so sometimes it doesn't.
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't, and so I'm gonna use the tech and say, yep, that's not his income.
Yep.
I'm going back to old school.
Sure.
To properly represent my client's income. So, but again, that's the beauty of having me look at it.
There are ratios on these things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you have to, obviously, the more income you have, the bigger house you can buy.
Yes.
And
the more complicated your situation usually is.
Right. It's kind of fun. But Mark Twain once said he was shocked on how bright his father got between his 18th and 25th birthday. Right?
Okay.
And that's, I think, common to all of us. We all think our parents are idiots when we're 16, 17
Yeah.
years old. And then, you're 26 and you look back and like, oh, that wasn't that dumb.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting to here is my father always used to say, you want to buy the largest house you can afford being a key word, and the cheapest car that runs.
Cheapest car that runs.
Yeah.
Because one will appreciate and one will depreciate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really true. What's like one thing that you wish the average person out there understood about mortgages?
Wow. One thing I wish they understood, that not every person is going to be transparent with you. And what you want to hear has to be, you have to be able to see it on paper.
Sure.
So we often see large institutions that, honestly, I wish people knew not to click on the computer to get information about a mortgage, because what's happening is your name is being sold to someone, and that person is selling your name to multiple different companies.
Right.
They are going to call you and they are going to present something to you that sounds great. And what happens is that sounding great thing, when you see it represented on paper, it's completely different than what you understood.
Well, there was a period of time, your business, talking pre-2008, 2009, right? A lot of funky things were going on back then.
Yeah.
Liar loans, for example, going back to there.
But
also,
that's all about who you're dealing with.
Oh, absolutely,
again,
like in any business. But there was not even safeguards. I mean, there was even, I had a gentleman come in, he was trying to buy a house. Back then, I think it was like $300,000. And the guy said, yeah, I'm going to give you a mortgage, and you're only going to have to pay for your mortgage. Rates were like, I guess it's 6%. So it was like, $1,100 a year. Right? Yeah, he was paying interest only for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then he would owe everything.
I find myself explaining things to people that in order to get them past they told me this. And I'm like, I understand that.
Right.
Let's look at what this actually means.
Because, there's no such thing as a bad mortgage per se out there.
Correct.
Right?
There's just a bad for you.
Yeah, there's a purpose for everything. Like
There
I
is
tell
a
people,
purpose.
there's no such thing as a bad investment.
No.
You know what I mean? You know, whether it's annuity or equities or bonds or
Yeah.
preferred stock, REITs, whatever it happens to be. And some will do better than others at different times. But you know, a little old lady comes in and wants to invest some money. Buying oil futures is not a good thing for her.
Right.
Right. You know, so it's about what's appropriate for the person.
It is about what's appropriate for the person. I mean, I've spent many years working with many different programs that, you know, in the 90s, they used to have loans they called pick-a-pay. And those loans are great for people who work on large bonuses that come out
Sure.
once a year, and they're properly explained, but that's not good for an 80-year-old woman.
Right.
Okay, who may be on a fixed income and doesn't serve her the same way. But to someone who understands the product and it fits with their need, their goals, it's an amazing product.
Speaking of the 80-year-old woman, one type of loan that I know you deal with, which is got a bad rap in the 70s and 80s,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now I think is very, very appropriate and can be a lifesaver for a lot of people, is a reverse mortgage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
could you just kind of explain what it works, what it's for, and how you handle it?
So there's two ways to do a reverse mortgage. If you currently own a home, a reverse mortgage could allow you to supplement your retirement income by pulling equity out to either pay off an existing mortgage that you had and get rid of the principal and interest payment, or provide a monthly stream of income. And it works a lot of ways. I think people are very misinformed, but my favorite is watching people right size into a new home with a reverse mortgage.
Right.
So we're watching people who are selling a property and maybe they're not netting as much as they thought they might. We can help them buy into a new property with a reverse mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
They will not have to make a principal or interest payment, and we're boosting their buying power usually by 30%.
Right.
So it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the most underutilized programs that
And when
have.
people feel, well, the mortgage can go against me and I can lose my house, that can't really happen.
No, and there's so many new programs that have come out within the realm of reverse mortgage that it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great things to do. We're doing legacy planning with a reverse
Sure.
mortgage. That basically, one big complaint was, well, I want to leave my kids the house. Now, my personal response is, your kids don't want the house. They would really like you to live a happy, healthy life in retirement, and if they didn't have to contribute financially, that would be bonus.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's to me.
In 90%
okay.
of the cases.
In 90% of the cases, that's correct. But they want to leave a legacy, or perhaps they want to plan for capital gains.
Right.
Right? So we're able to actually structure a reverse mortgage now that guarantees that a certain portion will be left
Sure.
at the end of a borrower's lifetime, which is amazing to me. It's a great product.
Yeah,
It's a great product.
and it can really make the difference of when the person does want to downsize.
Mm-hmm.
And like I will tell you, I will be that person. Okay,
Right.
I had a conversation with my wife. I guess it was not too long ago. She, I'm getting a little older. You think we should downsize everything out? And I'm
We
like,
call it right size.
right? And I'm like, no. Right? And she goes, why? It's like, okay, we do okay. If I need like an elevator because we can't go upstairs, I will build
put
an
an
outside
elevator.
elevator. And I'm not talking about
You
that
and
stupid
my
stair
husband,
thing.
I-
You know what I mean? Like I like my gardens. I like my house.
Yeah.
You can bury me in the backyard. When I'm dead, you can sell the place. but
My
not until-
husband is the same.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I like this and I like that. I'm like, you do realize we live in a really big condominium? And he goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, we pay a landscaper, we pay because you know what, we are getting older and we don't have, it takes longer to do all those things.
Yeah,
So,
well, but that's why God made gardeners and
yeah, exactly. So
I'm at a point in my life now that I don't like to do anything that I have to do weekly. Right, so like cutting the lawn, right? But I'll do a project like I'm going to be building in the back of my house a shed, right? That it's 20 feet by 40 feet. I got to put the roof on it. I got to assemble the whole
I
thing.
hear ya.
It's a job, right? I got to
Right.
put the foundation down. I'll do that. That's fun. I'll spend 2 weekends and do it because once I'm done, it's done. I don't have
It's
to do it
done.
again.
You don't have
but
to do-
weeding, oh my God,
yeah,
just shooting.
yeah. I hear you.
No.
For me, it's cleaning the house.
Yeah.
I'm like,
God bless our cleaning
God
ladies.
bless our cleaning ladies, right? I love my cleaning lady, and You know, and I've realized, you know this because you handle my stuff.
Sure.
I bought a house at the beach.
Right.
That was my bucket list item. And did it scare me? Yeah, I'm gonna be 63. I did this 2.5 years ago, and I just dove in, and I couldn't be happier about that house.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, about that house.
So, on a personal, having a debate with my wife, this is going on for the last 6 to 9 months. She wants to get a house on the beach or a house on the lake, so the kids can use it and we can use it. A family place to go.
Yeah, I understand
and
that.
I want to get it someplace on 86th Street between 6th and 7th in Manhattan.
I think you are going to spend about the same amount of
About the
money
same amount of
either
money,
way.
and I'll have a
Either
closet
way.
on 86th Street.
Yeah, you will.
To get the
You'll be in a studio,
Yep,
not
absolutely.
really, and
But
lucky if
my
you have a bathroom.
My dream would be to, keep my house in Reading, all right, but drive down to the city on a Friday,
Yeah.
stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning, drive to work, and then Monday through Thursday night, right, stay in my house in Connecticut. I'm probably going to lose this one. So
You might lose it, but if you
Happy
want,
wife, happy
what I can do is come September, maybe you can go stay at the house on the beach.
That'd be nice.
All right,
Thank you very much.
that would be
Very, very
that
cool.
would be fun. You would have a good time.
All right. So, last question: how would you measure your success in your role as a mortgage professional?
Wow, good years and bad years. It really is what I put into it. So how would I measure my success? I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful family. I have a house on the beach. From my perspective, I've accomplished a lot of what I wanted to accomplish in my lifetime. And so that part, the personal financial success, I'm good with.
Very
Okay,
cool.
the personal financial success I'm good with. In my professional life, I am on a mission to change how people feel, think, and believe in reverse mortgages.
Okay.
Because I feel like it is a tool that so many are going to need in the future. It is we have no pensions.
Right.
Okay, we have no pensions. The other fun fact is most people don't realize that when your partner passes, you get one Social Security,
Right.
not two.
You get the higher one, whichever
The higher
it was,
one,
but
exactly.
you lose the other one.
You lose the other
we
one.
go through this all the time. With
Yes, and to not plan for that, and which is why, if I could change one thing about my lifetime, I wish I had met you in my 20s.
Well, thank you very much.
I just want you to
appreciate
know that because I worked. I don't know that you know this, but when I got out of college, I worked in the financial district. I got my Series 7. I worked for Bear Stearns.
Very cool.
Okay, I sat at the end of someone's desk and I
Made
learned to
phone calls.
cold call.
Smile and dial.
Smile and dial, and I came back and I realized, okay, I can't live in the city. I'm gonna work in Connecticut, and it was during the time when people were having issues with options.
Yeah.
Okay, issues with options. So I realized then for me that I lost trust in what the investment world
Sure.
should be, and that's how I actually made the step into mortgages. It was more tangible for
Yep.
me. So my goal. One is the mission to change how people think about reverse mortgages, but my number 2 goal is actually to encourage my clients to speak with a financial professional even when they don't think they have enough money to.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time with planners. You and your business, I think, is
We're geared for those
well,
people too.
exactly, and I think that is such a win in the environment that we're in, because people are shy about the fact that they haven't saved money.
You grew up relatively, I'm a little older than you, but not that much older than you, and we grew up in a time where, what you didn't talk about at the kitchen table was sex, religion, and money.
And money.
It would, I would never have thought to ask my father when I was 17 years old how much you make.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so that's part of the other piece that I push my clients to is, do you have a tax preparer? Do you have a financial professional? Let me introduce you to someone.
very, very cool.
Because even though you think you shouldn't, even though you think, we have a lot of young people today who are making a lot of money and they're spending it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And-
DoorDash. I mean,
Yeah,
oh my God.
exactly. That's a thing for me. When a client comes in and they're like, I want to buy a house, and okay, great. Do you have any money? No, I don't have any money saved, but I want to buy a house. I'm like, okay. I'm like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a 1-week test. What's a test? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your bank statement and you're going to highlight every time you use your debit card or you bought food out, and you're going to total up the number. I'm going to bet you that it's a week's pay.
Yep.
Okay, easily a week's pay. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to become cash based for a week. You get $50, put it in your pocket. When that $50 is gone, you're done for the week.
Right.
You know,
What we do all the time when I sit down with a client that would do financial coaching, which is
Yes.
your younger client,
Yeah.
right? I sit down with the client and I say, okay, the first thing I want you to do is probably the only thing I'll ever ask you to buy. I want you to buy a notebook.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
And I don't want you to put down your car payment or the oil bill or any of that stuff. That's not what I want. I want every time you spend money on your debit card, credit card, or you lay out cash. So
Correct.
that's the coffee. That's going to Starbucks. That's going to the diner. That's ordering in on DoorDash. That's
Yes.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
When you
all
buy
of that.
clothes, and it's really discretionary spending that you don't have to really do, right?
Right.
I want you to write down one page for every day. No finger pointing. Okay. Most people can't account for 20 to 25% of the money coming into the house where it's
agreed.
going.
I think
have
that's
no idea.
conservative.
You
I
know?
think that's
And-
conservative.
And it just kills them. You know what I mean? And I always tell them, I don't care where you spend your money. You want to buy, I turn to the guy, you want to buy a tripped out Harley Davidson, going to cost you 60 grand, go ahead. And if you want those Louis Vuitton shoes, God bless.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But I will get really upset if you come in here and you say, yeah, I don't know where the $3,000 went.
Yes, exactly. Knowing where it went. What do I say to people? If we all stop buying on Amazon, we could afford to buy Amazon.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
that's a thing.
And we're all guilty of it. I mean, I'm the worst. I get 2 cancellations and then lunch. I got 3 hours to kill. Let's go on Amazon.
Yeah, and just an extra $50 a week away or $50.
Sure.
People don't realize long term, and I think that's an issue. They can't see that financial future.
And especially with young people, they do it all the time. And this is just math, and I like math, right? But if you have a 20-year-old, right, who's going to save $12,000 a year,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter the amount of money, and assuming they're going to make like 7% of it, and that 20-year-old basically saves $10,000 a year for 10 years. $100,000, they'll have roughly about 170 grand. Okay,
Right.
and then never puts another penny away. And then his twin brother, right, who's at 20, he starts saving at 30 years old, $10,000 a year, and he saves it till he's 65. The first kid will have more money than the second. They'll never catch up. Even though he saved for 6 years at 10% because of the compound. Starting early with a little is better than trying to start later with a lot.
I can put this in real-time words. I have a client who bought a house in 22, and then I have a client who decided she was going to wait. Property prices were coming down. Rates were too high. She was going to wait. The client who bought in 22 put a very small amount down. Owns a home that has appreciated. We had it appraised recently. She is $150,000 ahead.
Yep.
The client who didn't buy, who's still waiting, she was looking at homes in the $500,000 range that are now $800,000. So she's 300 in the negative,
right.
and the other one's 150.
In the
Right,
positive.
and oh, by the way, this is just housing. It's not that she took on an added expense. She would have either been renting.
Right.
The one who bought would have either been renting.
People don't realize,
yeah.
well, the rent's a little less than my mortgage. Not 10 years from now.
No, and you're not getting any tax benefit.
Right, and
when you
because the
really
rents are gonna
sit
go up.
down, yeah, you really sit down. And there's nothing wrong with buying a home you can afford and then taking on a roommate.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you can afford to pay those monthly payments without a roommate, taking a roommate on will give you some added cash to make repairs, put back into savings.
And you could even get really a little creative with that type of thing too, and where you can actually legally rent to the roommate.
That's
okay?
correct.
And show it on a Schedule E.
Correct.
You can show a tax loss on your property, save a lot of money on it. I just tell clients, there's no laws that says you cannot sleep with your roommate, but if you marry her or marry him,
That's different.
It's
a
over.
different tax
you
bracket.
You can't do that anymore. You can't rent to your wife or husband.
It's the difference?
That's not cricket. The IRS will definitely frown on that.
Yeah.
Right? But there are ways you can be creative. I have that a lot of times. I get young cops who basically they buy a house, you know,
and
what I
then
mean?
they rent to
and they rent to two other cops because they're never there anyways.
Right.
And they,
Right.
And it's a great way for them to do it.
It is a great way for them to do it, and there's just so much opportunity now to do that you should be taking advantage of.
Well, I think this is going to be looked back over the next 4 or 5 years, and I know it's difficult for young people finding a place. There's a lack of interest. It's gotten a little better, right? It's difficult, right? But it's going to be like a golden age because, again, going back to what I said before about people think that things that happen have always happened. It's not true. People live, and even though we're kind of, I wouldn't say rural, but urban, right?
Suburban,
right? Suburban, right? But at the same time, we're pretty close to the city, you know what I mean? And, you go back, all right? No one owned homes in the city back in the day.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, an example I use, like in Manhattan, Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy. He was the band leader of the Copacabana, the hottest club in Manhattan, and he lived in an apartment
that he rented.
That he rented.
From the merchants.
From the merchants. He did not own, now younger people, you're not going to know what I'm talking about, but that's fine. But he rented there because, it wasn't until it was color, and many years later, and little Ricky was like already 7, that they got a house in the country that...
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking before about who the new home buyers are. Do you know that statistics say that 40% of home buyers in the coming years are 50 and older? 50 and older. And you know what? We're seeing generational housing.
Yeah.
We're seeing kids move in with parents, and for so many different reasons,
student loans.
Exactly.
You get somebody coming out of college, they owe $300,000 and they're working at Starbucks. I mean, they're employed, but they're not making the money that they thought they were going to make.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's hard.
So it's a very interesting time, and I'm kind of grateful to be in the middle of it.
And I'm sure your clients are very grateful that you're here.
Oh, thank you.
I really believe that. I know my clients are.
I
want to thank you very much for coming in. All right, I really appreciate it.
Fun.
If somebody wants to get in contact with you, how would they reach out?
You could call me. My cell phone, I'm all over the internet, and you can just call me on my cell phone.
Which is?
203-400-0719.
And if they wanted to email you?
Oh, that's a little harder. L Moriello, so LMORIELLO @LoanDepot, all one word, .com.
Okay, and anyone want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, we'll put you in contact with Lisa. Thank you so much for coming in.